no! Hey everybody, it's Andy Kushner, host of The Wedding Biz, and this is another episode of The Next Level. And our wonderful co-host Melissa is back from her trip in New York City. Melissa, fancy?
Hello, everybody.
And together, Melissa and I will discuss the most recent guest interview of the morning and bring out a few key topics and translate them into specific tactical strategies you can use to bring your business to the next level. So, Melissa, why don't you tell us about Bridal Market? You were there for a week.
I was there for a week. It was amazing. I was tagging along with Julie Sabatino, who is the host of our show on our network, The Stylish Bride. I cannot tell you guys, it was so inspiring. It was amazing. I was surrounded by so many of our wedding industry friends. And yes, it was very, very glamorous, but also my feet hurt and I'm so tired. It was amazing. I'm going to be there next year. It was fantastic.
Yeah, and there were a lot of people there who have been on the show, and specifically, one person who showed her line was Inez DeSanto, right?
Yes, and her collection that she sent down the runway was just outstanding. It was just over the top. It was the kind of work that would transform a bride's almost entire experience. It would make her feel like she was in another time and place. It was beautiful. And then we went to her fantastic party at the Baccarat store on Madison, and we had a fun cocktail hour with her and everybody and just caught up with everyone. It was so beautiful.
Yeah, and if you want to listen to the interview of Inez and Veronica DeSanto, it was published on October 1st. So be sure to go back and check out that conversation. It was really special. So, Melissa, what else do you have before we get into the guest of the morning? Any other topics to bring up?
Sure. We have a review from Splendid Evie. She says, this is an amazing podcast for anyone in the event industry. It is insightful on the business level and very personal too. Thank you, Andy, for your hard work and for connecting the world with incredible professionals, allowing them to share their stories and inspiring others. You guys, please keep leaving us reviews like this.
Yes, thank you so much. That was so nice of you to leave such a great review. I appreciate it. And believe me, I love this. I'm so passionate about this. I mean, I've been doing this a year and a half and I am still not bored. Like I feel that initial spark like from before. So thank you for writing in like that. So this morning's guest is Jennifer Zabinski of Jay-Z Events. Jennifer considers herself a planner first, and she always hires just amazing designers to work on her team. Her clients include hedge fund luminaries and fashion insiders, socialites, sports stars. Jennifer is really just amazing. If you missed the interview, be sure to listen to it to hear the whole thing. She just imparted so much wisdom. And as usual, what we look for here, education, inspiration. So, Melissa, in terms of the first topic, one that really grabbed my attention was, I loved how she said this. She talks about how she makes it her business to learn each and every component that goes into an event, enough about it. And I liked how she kind of added this to it so that she can give direction confidently. And I thought that was really important. When I think back to my own experience in events, the planners who are and the event producers who I deal with, who are the most effective, you can tell, when they do. I mean, we're not talking the heavy technical aspects of whatever, of lighting, of music, of floral, but you can tell the ones that have really given that time and effort to get a better understanding, so that they almost talk more our language as vendors and partners at the event.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I really like that when she talks about this so passionately, it is very apparent that she is an incredibly thoughtful person, from the way that she's interacting with her brides to this idea of really digging in with every vendor partner. It's really powerful. It's almost like, that thoughtfulness is her superpower.
And she also talked about it in terms of just the whole team effort of looking to her various partners who are open to giving suggestions. She obviously is very open to getting assistance. And so again, to come back to her point, to really understand as much as she can about each little component of all the different, what goes into an event, helps her to do that and makes her so much more available to people. And I can really resonate with that.
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you how many times it has been when the other people that you're working with really understand enough about your job to really be able to speak to it, that communication line is just so wide open. I mean, you can call and talk about the details and be on the same page ahead of time. You have smooth flowing chats during the event itself. And then afterwards, there's so much less like frustration. Everything is it's just flawless and smooth. And I love that.
And it definitely takes an effort, to do that, to really get in there. And again, I keep repeating this because I think it's that important. She specifically said these words. She makes it her business to learn each and every component that goes into the event. Kind of related to that is she later in the interview, she also talked about knowing the process of each vendor, or Melissa and I like to say frienders or partners. Knowing the process of each person is really important, which is kind of looking at it from another angle. And obviously, as a planner, those of you out there, when you are bringing people onto your team, obviously, something about the process, but I liked how she specifically kind of brought it up to say it's not just their work, but it's also to help her determine the right fit for a client. So kind of it's that whole approach of really getting into the nitty gritty of what each partner does and what the business model of each person is.
At the end of the day, everything we do is about relationships. Having real, amazing, friendly relationships with the people that we work with in different fields within our industry is one of the most invaluable things that you can do for yourself. So really, I would highly, highly suggest you all get outside of your comfort zones, get outside of the space that you always work in. And if you are online looking at all these beautiful, beautiful photos and different things that we have access to because of the internet, that's great. But you know what? It's not enough. You really can hire anyone from the internet for your clients. But if you don't know their process and you don't know how they work and how it is to work with them, you're really doing a disservice to yourself and your client. And so for her, I can't imagine that she's not spending some serious time getting to know how everybody works.
Being on the other side as a partner, vendor, friender, in the music business that I have, I also make an effort to go meet with planners, have lunch, whatever. Obviously, we all do that. But I want to, in a sense, let them know not to sell myself. It's really in terms of what I love to do process-wise. I want to know what their process is. How can we kind of meld the two more together? So I would say, too, from the partner side of it, to reach out to the planners. And I think it goes both ways. Learn as much as you can about what goes into the responsibilities of a planner so that you can better understand where you fit in and where you can even help out at the event. So what other topics grabbed your attention, Melissa?
Well, I think it's really related to this. I can't tell you how many times I hear from people just like, oh, I don't know why I'm not getting work from so-and-so lately, or I don't know why I wasn't referred for that event that I saw them post. You really have to take a step back and check your ego at the door, because it is not very often that it's about anything more than just that matchup wasn't right. It has to be the process and the personality and the talent. And I think when we stop worrying so much about those little minutia things that maybe why someone's not referring us, could exist, look at that person and what they do and what their clients like and how they like to communicate. She even touches on that in her conversation. She touches on, is this somebody who likes to email a lot? Well, I can't match them up with a vendor partner that is only going to do phone calls. That doesn't work for that person. Or if this bride loves texting, I need to make sure that whoever she's going to be working with is fine with texting all the time, or, Instagram messaging or whatever. It really is such a puzzle that she is in charge of putting together. And that responsibility weighs very heavy on her. And I think that's why she takes it so seriously. It's fantastic.
Well, and I'm going to come at it again from the partner perspective. Of course, I would love for every single planner, designer, event producer to recommend me. However, maybe in the early days, I was kind of hung up on that kind of a thing. We're here because the client hired us, but, I know this person didn't necessarily refer me. I don't get referrals from them. I don't think like that. Instead, I am going to give everything I can to help the planner, the event producer, plan the greatest event they can for our client, as a team. And what I found, and this is a very long time ago, but when I started to make that shift and I would go all out, I would really give extra. I would offer ahead of time to be available for any kind of pre-production instead of waiting to get the call. And I wasn't annoying or anything like that. I was just saying, look, I'm here. Would you like any input from me, perhaps on the timelines or anything I can do? And I found that even at events, if I saw that they were rushing and they were trying to, whatever, they had to replace some chairs, I'd run over there and I'd help them with that. And, I find that having that team approach, that kind of an attitude, that kind of a perspective does get the attention. If you really want to look for referrals, it's a team and you got to make it easier. And it blows me away. Like when I talk to people like even Mindy, all kinds of, all these like icons I've spoken to in the business, you wouldn't believe when the microphone's off, some of the things where they're saying, I can't believe so-and-so, like a major band, for example, all they care about is their breaks and their meals. I mean, it's oh my God, I can't believe I'm supposed to take care of my clients first and they're bugging me about that. And I'm sitting here thinking, how is this band being like that with this particular person? They're not going to get referred. So it's really all aspects of this that is so important.
So many of us go into these events and we are so worried about making sure that we do a good job and that all of our I's are dotted. And I think that we get so hyper focused or tunnel vision on what is our job. And we forget that there's a lot of things that happen on a wedding and event day that are not our job that we really should be doing. I hear that often. It was not my job to do this, or, the rentals got delivered and they're late and these people aren't going to help set them up. And so now like the catering company doesn't want to help because it's not their job. That's not really the way to keep it all happy and keep it client focused. And, I would also say, like, if you guys want to continue being well-rounded, learn how to communicate all these different ways. If you make it that much easier to work with you, communicate with you, not just for the planner, but for the client, you are going to be much more considered because you're so easy to work with in general. If you're like cool with Instagram direct messages, great. If you're cool with texting, great. And email and calls and whatever. It's really about being able to take care of a client in the best way,
Yeah, that's what it comes down to in the end, is it's all for the client. Another topic that grabbed my attention that I really enjoyed was when she talked about how people remember the little touches. And I was so interested in this. I remember, it's very vivid to me. She talked about, for example, like a note that she'll help the bride and groom. She'll set it up so that the bride and groom can do a handwritten note for the guests, or even on the back of the escort card saying something like, thank you for traveling so far, something a little personal, or I can't wait to party with you, personally signed by them. And one of the reasons for that is that, look, there's 150, 300 people at the party. The couple is not necessarily going to be able to get to everybody and have a nice personal connection. And so that little touch of a note from them on each escort card, I thought was brilliant. Or for example, shoe pads. That she mentioned that too. She provides shoe pads for both the men and the women. And she has a foot massage station at some parties. I have never heard of that one before. I mean, if you imagine, especially if there's a lot of dancing or it's a kind of an event where there is a lot of standing, what a great idea, especially if you think back. I mean, they have had the cocktail hour. Yes, they're sitting for the ceremony, but these people have been up for a long time. To provide a foot massage station, talk about a nice little touch that's going to be remembered.
When you talk about the things that separate, the professionals from the amateurs, it is this stuff. It is this stuff that is so thoughtful and so important and so heavy on the touch points. That stuff is what sets people like Jennifer apart from everyone else. And that is why her clients are who they are and why she continues to be so terribly successful. And that is exactly what we should be emulating ourselves after. We should not be trying to figure out what formula we can create that's going to be successful and just do that. She is taking this apart. She is looking at the guest experience down to making sure their feet are comfortable. And that's something we should all be doing for our clients, especially if we are constantly talking about taking it to the next level. Let me tell you, she's got it figured out.
That's making me think that I remember another little tiny detail. I'll talk about what you just said, Melissa, is that even black napkins that don't leave lint on black tie outfits. I mean, That's wow. I love that. So yeah, I agree totally with what you're talking about. And, before we wrap up, again, I do want to suggest you listen to this whole interview because there's so much more to get from this. And she also, before we wrap up, I want to mention too, this has come up a few times with these various interviews, is how to balance personal life with business. And she was also talking a lot. Jennifer was talking a lot about mothering and how she had 2 young ones. And we were kind of talking about that aspect of it. They're experiencing a very busy mother who is not around all the time. But Jennifer's point, which really grabbed my attention, because I think back to when we were raising our daughter, is that the kids, they're growing up seeing that their parents, in this case, their mother, loves what she does. And she was saying that her kids even saw from some meetings and things like that, people in very high powered positions, and just being exposed to that was really good for her kids. And here's another point I remember too. She said, I loved this. She said, at the end of the day, not only does she want to hear her kids' stories, but she shares her stories with her kids, even really young, which is another way of imparting some great wisdom on a day-to-day basis. And I remember even thinking for my own daughter, even when I think when she was maybe 12, 13, I started to even tell her some business aspects of what I do. I would have loved to have gotten that kind of information from my parents at that age. So I also love that she talked about that and that her kids have a chance to meet creative people and they're learning respect for different choices.
Oh, I agree with that wholeheartedly. I went to work with my dad. My dad was a general contractor.
Oh, you did? I didn't know that. Yeah.
So I grew up getting a serious work ethic from my dad, and it shaped the entire outcome of my future because I can work well and I understand how to do business and speak with people. And he very much incorporated that into my upbringing. And I think that's very, very valuable. And, it made my dad and I very close, but I think it's hands-on learning that you cannot get anywhere else. And when you start that young, it sticks with you your whole life.
Last thing I want to say too is just our guest from last week, Cece Johnson, talked a great deal about from her bedroom, her father's office was on the other side of the wall, and she literally heard so many conversations, and then he would also talk to her very directly about business. She gave him a lot of credit for how much that shapes even who she is today. I love that whole idea. So, well, that is all we have time for today. I want to thank you all for listening to us talk about the next level, Jennifer Zabinski. And Melissa, you got a few things before we go?
Oh, yeah. You guys, make sure that you are following us on Instagram at Wedding Biz Show. That is how we communicate with our listeners beyond just the podcast time. And also, we need your reviews. We love reading them to everybody. We get reviews and it boosts us up on the iTunes list and it makes us easier to find. So please let us know what you think of the show.
And before I tell you who's coming up next week, we also would love it if you send us questions. You can tell us little stories, challenges that you've run into. If we don't have a good answer ourselves, we'll call one of the guests that we have. We have a very open door to a lot of people here. So, Melissa, what is the best way for people to send questions and little stories so that we could help spread the word on how it can help everybody?
You guys direct message us on Instagram. My phone is in my hand pretty much 24/7.
Great. And also next week's episode, let me say, is the incredible photographer, Andre Mayer. Be sure to tune in next week to that episode. Thanks again for listening to us on The Next Level, and we are The Wedding Biz.